Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng. The movement control order aims to save lives by breaking the chain of COVID-19 transmission. But saving livelihoods and the economy is just as important. On this episode of AWANI Review, I speak with Nordin Abdullah. He is the founding chairman of Malaysia Global Business Forum to talk about some of the approaches for a successful MCO and if a lockdown is a sustainable solution in the face of a prolonged pandemic. Thank you so much, Nordin, for making time to be on Awani Review. I want to talk about the lessons that we can learn from the first MCO and how we can bring it to this current MCO 2.0. Now, as we know, a successful lockdown can pave way to faster economic recovery. So let's start with that. How do you think this MCO this time around will be different compared to the first one?
Well, I think the fact that we've already done one MCO gives people an idea of what to expect. So the level of psychological or mental anguish in that sense will not be there because they've already experienced that. So now it will give people the idea that they can actually stop and think a little bit more as opposed to worrying. So it will actually be able to give people the opportunity to look for the opportunities that are now available because of change.
And what are some of the best approaches you think in implementing this current MCO? You wrote an article that is now available on astroawani.com. The title of the article is A Critical Approach for a Successful MCO. Tell us about it. What is the definition of a successful MCO?
Well, the idea is to be successful, you have to set your objectives. And I think that's one of the key things that we see in business today is objective-driven business decisions. So same with an MCO, we need to be objective-driven. So the first thing is, are we going to, is the objective to get down to zero? Is the objective to get down to a certain number? So those kind of things need to be actually set so we can be targeted in our approach. With that approach, then you can have the ability for people to all work together because it's not done by just the Ministry of Health and MOSTI rolling out the vaccine. It's actually a nationwide response to it. So to be successful, define the objectives and then look at the resources required to deliver that objective.
And do we have a clear objective in your opinion?
Well, this is the thing that we need to understand. Is our objective getting down to zero cases, or is it getting to a position where it's manageable and we can then open up the economy again? And for me, opening up the economy is being able to get on an airplane and fly to anywhere without having to go through, 14 days or 10 days of quarantine either side of that journey. So business people can get back to business. Malaysia, of course, is a highly integrated country in the global context. So business people need to travel. Yes, there's Zoom, and it's great to be able to speak to you, using these apps today. But the reality is, certain business you need to be able to get on a plane and go. So for me, that would be the kind of fuzzy objective of that. Whether there is a medical objective, I think that needs to be set.
Now, picking your point about, just hopping on the plane and being able to travel and without having to go through quarantine, it does appear to look like no countries in the world have yet to be able to figure out, what's the step here? How can we implement it? Because if you recall, Hong Kong and Singapore had wanted to do a travel bubble, and that was cancelled at the very last minute due to increased number of cases, COVID-19 cases in Hong Kong. So, looking at how things are at the moment with most countries now facing a third wave of the pandemic, what is the way forward for Malaysia? What do we need to prepare now for a quicker economic recovery?
Good question. I think what we need to look at is what does the future look like? So whether the future comes in 6 months or 12 months, are businesses geared up? And it's not just at the ministerial level, it's at the agency level and at that SOP level. So with that ability to then move, the economy will move in another way. Also in a huge part due to the fact that tourism is a massive component of any economy, and moving people around is a big part of economic activity.
I'd like to make another point in your article, A Critical Approach for a Successful MCO. You underscored the accessibility of e-government services as a tool really to roll out MCO successfully. Can you elaborate about that?
Moving forward, e-government is going to be the way to go. It's about productivity. Now, if people are spending half a day in a government department waiting for something, that means they're not doing their job. If you want to be a high-performance individual, a high-performance company, or a high-performance country, you need to stop doing low-performance activities. So the ability for individuals to be involved or to use e-government services is going to be the key. So Malaysia has actually moved down that path. Still, one of the kind of gaps we're seeing is internet availability. That needs to be a nationwide reality, so that all Malaysians or all people residing in Malaysia as well. And I think that's kind of something that's come up during this MCO. With that in mind, if you're able to deliver that baseload of internet connectivity with effective e-government services, that just takes away a huge amount of wasted time.
Now, Nordin, you also talk about a term called broken windows in your article. Now, this is quite interesting because we also want to look into how businesses can do what they can do in this time of disruption. Tell us, what is this broken window concept, and what are Malaysia's broken windows then?
Well, the idea actually came from two social scientists, and it's a criminology idea. But the idea is very simple. If you see a broken window, and it's not fixed, it will lead to another broken window, and eventually that whole neighborhood will become run down, and crime will take place. So if you want to live in a nice neighborhood, fix the first window. And that really is a societal approach to solving problems. So in this case, in the Malaysia's case, it could be on all levels. Everyone talks about the big problems in Malaysia, and the news gets excited about the big problems, but it can be at a corporate level, or even at your department level. Like, fix the problems that are in front of you so that it becomes a better environment for you to operate. So for businesses, when you notice something is wrong, those are actually the opportunities that you need to now pounce on and quickly move forward to solve those problems.
What are some of the opportunities that you are seeing in Malaysia at this point?
Some of the opportunities, of course, now with rapid digitalization, we're seeing a lot more companies starting to work from home. With that, we're seeing another kind of trend developing around cybersecurity. And because there's a lot more information not secured in one central location, and people are working from home. So actually, for us, we're seeing this, the threats to work from home and digitization, and solving those threats as one of the biggest opportunities at the moment, so that companies don't get hit by a second level crisis. The first one is COVID-19, where now everyone is at home. Then you solve that problem, everyone gets used to being productive at home, and then all of a sudden, a new problem happens. So anticipate is going to be the name of the game, because in a sense, the criminals are also working from home now, and they're also looking for opportunities as well. So it sounds like a game, it sounds fun, but the reality is it's deadly serious, and we need to look at how we're going to solve some of those emerging issues quickly.
Now, speaking of anticipation, businesses had anticipated that 2021 could be the year of recovery instead of survival in 2020, but it's not shaping up to what we had expected. Let's talk about helping companies to get back stronger. How should they reimagine their business models and strategies?
Well, first is to understand that change, of course, it's become a cliche, the only thing that's actually now it's about rapid change. So if you've not thought about how to disrupt yourself, someone else is going to disrupt you. At the same time, there is competitive disruption. where things are going wrong for one company may be the opportunity for you to come and solve that problem in a better way and a more efficient way and a more productive way. So I see that as a way forward. As Malaysia develops as a country, and I think this is, I think everyone's saying, oh, 2020 was a terrible year. Actually, there was many companies who did, on the Malaysian stock market, was that 2020 was their best year. So when we see that, we've got to look at why was that the case. It's because they were involved in critical supply chains and critical industries. So when you start to move kind of approach of being in a critical industry means you get you're more important. Therefore, when something goes wrong, the government of the day, governments around the world will actually ensure that your industry continues because you're critical to the survival of the country, of the people within that country. So approach to critical supply chains, I think, is going to be more and more important.
Now, just one final question, Nordin, about the lockdown, the MCO. There are many debates about the efficacy of a lockdown. Yes, it helps reduce the number of infections, to stop the spread of transmission. But what about the cost of economy, right? Do you see a lockdown as a fail-safe solution to face a prolonged pandemic?
Well, there's no perfect solution, but there are many problems that we're dealing with. So what we have to take is the approach of what is the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. And this also when we look at the rollout of the vaccine. Yes, there's going to be people who have an allergic reaction to it, this kind of thing. But the reality is what is the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. So it's a matrix. And within that matrix, we make a decision. It's not a silver bullet approach. So anyone who's looking at a silver bullet approach probably didn't understand the issue fully and didn't consider that there are multiple factors, multiple stakeholders involved to move forward continually. So if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. Even if you're staying still, you're moving backwards because you're moving forward.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nordin, for sharing your thoughts. I look forward to perhaps meeting you in person again one day. Thank you so much for your time. And that was Nordin Abdullah, founding chairman of Malaysia Global Business Forum. Thank you for watching. My name is Cynthia Ng. We'll see you tomorrow.